Hello everyone, good evening. I'm Dr. Vaishnavi and today I'm here to discuss about tracheoesophageal puncture and tracheoesophageal processes. What is a primary and secondary tracheoesophageal puncture and the processes that we use. So this is going to be a brief discussion on the types of tracheoesophageal puncture. So we classify this into two types. A primary type and a secondary type. So primary tracheoesophageal puncture is a kind of puncture which is done initially only at the time of laryngectomy. So if it is performed at the time of the initial laryngectomy, then we call it as primary. But you do a total laryngectomy, and after doing a total laryngectomy, you give a gap of maybe 6 weeks or 6 months, depending upon the mental ability, the psychological status, the motivation the patient has for going for a second surgery. So, depending upon that and depending on the need for the radiation, all that you decide when to do a surgery for voice rehabilitation. So if you do this tracheoesophageal puncture after a gap of a few weeks or a few months after total laryngectomy, then you call it as a secondary type of TEP. So if you do it at the time of laryngectomy, it is primary, and if you do it later, then we call it as secondary. Now, what is the advantage of primary TEP? So, the advantage of primary TEP mainly is a single stage surgery. The patient does not have to go through two surgeries. Any surgery is cumbersome for a patient. So, this surgery is a single stage surgery. At the time of laryngectomy, only this surgery, this rehabilitative method is used. So, it is a single stage, and hence the speech acquisition is quite good. So, the speech will start post-operatively quite early. So the speech acquisition is very early in this, and the patient can be rehabilitated or can start to speak within 2 weeks after total laryngectomy. But there are many studies which report increased risk of mainly one very important complication that is associated with this primary TEP is a pharyngocutaneous fistula. So this is one of the very important complication that is associated with primary TEP, and other complication like a leakage, if there is a fistula at the puncture site, there is stomal necrosis or local infection. So these are associated with primary TEP. Not that they're not associated with secondary TEP, but there is an increased risk with primary TEP. As a result, secondary TEP is being performed. As much as possible, it is preferable to do a primary TEP, but since it has associated with increased risk of complications which I have mentioned prior, a secondary TEP can be performed. So there is a low, the complication rate is lower if this is performed slowly after the primary procedure because of maturation of the tracheostoma. So when you do a total laryngectomy, you keep a permanent tracheostomy. So once this tracheostoma has matured completely, and after that you do this secondary TEP, pharyngocutaneous fistula, leakage, granulation, all these things will be way too lesser as compared to primary TEP. Also, first after total laryngectomy, the patient is completely aphonic, cannot produce voice. So after this period of aphonia, if he gets any amount of voice or a reasonable voice, the patient is happy and he has reasonable expectation regarding the quality of voice. Unlike primary TEP, because the patient does not know what it feels like to be completely aphonic, psychologically, even if he has got a serviceable voice, he is most often unhappy, versus secondary TEP patients who have very good, they're having reasonable expectation with a good voice quality as well. Now, what is the procedure that we do in primary TEP? So you have done a neck dissection, you have done a laryngectomy with neck dissection. After that, you will take a pharyngeal protector. This is called as a pharyngeal protector. This pharyngeal protector is inserted through the neck into the pharynx, and it goes down until the site where you're primarily intending to do your intending to insert your guide wire or insert your prosthesis. Ideally, if this is your tracheostoma, about 1 to 1.5 centimeters posteriorly and inferiorly will be the site where you make a puncture. So first you will put this pharyngeal protector into the pharynx, and through your tracheal window you're going to palpate this. So you're supposed to feel the pharyngeal protector through the tracheal window. Once you have felt this pharyngeal protector through the tracheal window, it's the time for insertion of your trocar. This trocar is having a sharp edge on one side. So this sharp edge will make a clean cut incision on the pharynx, unlike if you use a knife or a scalpel or a hemostatic forceps, which may cause laceration of the pharyngeal mucosa. So it makes a clean cut wound and it is going into the pharyngeal protector. So you make a hole here and insert this into the pharyngeal protector. Now through this trocar, you are going to insert the guide wire. Now you can see the guide wire is going through the trocar. You retract the trocar. Now the guide wire goes from there through the pharyngeal protector, which is being retracted. So once the trocar is removed, the pharyngeal protector is also retracted, and the guide wire which was being passed through the trocar now goes through the trachea, goes through the puncture site, goes through the pharyngeal protector, and then comes out through the other end of the pharyngeal protector. So once it comes out through the other end of the pharyngeal protector, a guide wire tube is passed over a dilator tube. This is called as a dilator tube. This dilator tube is now passed. Now the guide wire is passed through this dilator tube. So you can see this is the guide wire, and it is being passed into the dilator. So from one end it comes and then it is made again into the loop, and the other end is inserted through the other hole which is there in the dilator tube. And ultimately this is pulled out of the dilator tube. So you can see here the dilator tube is hooked by the guide wire and it is now being pulled into the trachea. While this guide wire and the dilator tube are being pulled from the tracheal side, the reverse, you give a reverse pressure on the tracheoesophageal segment. So this is your trachea and behind that you have the esophagus. So at that segment you give a counter pressure so as to avoid any injury to the pharyngeal mucosa. And then it is pulled completely until you can see that this prosthesis which is attached to one end of the dilator comes out through the tracheal opening that you have made. Once it comes out through the tracheal opening, it is snugly fitted there. You cut off the dilator tube from this prosthesis and remove that and keep that prosthesis inside and remove the dilator tube. So this procedure is called as primary TEP. So you first put a pharyngeal protector. After putting the pharyngeal protector, you palpate that through the tracheal side, and then you put a sharp edged trocar and make a hole at the tracheoesophageal junction. And then once you have done that, you put this trocar here and through that you insert a guide wire. The guide wire is pulled from the other end of the pharyngeal protector. Once it is pulled from the other end of the pharyngeal protector, it is rotated on the dilator tube. It is inserted into the dilator tube from one end, and through the other end it is again reinserted back so that this nicely hooks around the dilator tube. To this dilator tube, you have the prosthesis attached. This prosthesis is now being pulled into the tracheal side, and you can see here the pharyngeal prosthesis, the tracheal prosthesis is fitting well, and it is communicating between the trachea and the esophagus. And now whatever air comes from the trachea is directed through this prosthesis, and from there you are able to get a voice. So this is your procedure for primary TEP. Now what is the second procedure for secondary TEP? In secondary tracheoesophageal puncture, you can use a pharyngoscope or an esophagoscope. So you use this rigid pharyngoscope or a esophagoscope. So once you insert this pharyngoscope or esophagoscope through the mouth, you can feel this through the tracheostoma. So again, the same thing like your primary TP, you will palpate for the opening. If you are unable to pass your finger, you may use a illuminating wire or a illuminating you can use anything that illuminates this area, and the illumination should be seen through the esophagoscope. So once you are able to see the illumination that you have kept in the trachea, which is visible through the esophagoscope, you know that this is the site of puncture. Now again, at the site of puncture, you use a sharp edged trocar, and this trocar makes a puncture between the trachea and the esophagus. And through the trocar, you insert a guide wire. This guide wire, once it enters into the esophagoscope, you slowly retract and remove the trocar, and this goes into the esophagoscope and is removed from the other end of the esophagoscope. Once it comes out, it is again passed through the dilator tube. So it comes out of one end of the dilator tube, takes a turn from other end, again comes back, and this is again pulled like how you do it in the primary TEP, and you have the prosthesis coming into the tracheal lumen. So in secondary TEP, the procedure or the principle is again the same, except that it is done only after a few days or months. Now, what does the success depend on? Whether it is primary or secondary TB, the key point for a success for rehabilitation is you should have a good and a dynamic pharyngoesophageal junction. So this is your pharynx, this is your esophagus. This upper esophageal sphincter or the cricopharyngeal sphincter should be dynamic and it should be functional. It should neither be hypotonic or neither should it be hypertonic or spastic. So how do we know whether it is hypertonic, hypotonic or spastic? So before I go to success, let me tell you how do we evaluate for this dynamic pharyngoesophageal segment. So you put a nasogastric tube and insufflate the esophagus with air. So you put air in the esophagus. Now you occlude the tracheostoma, and then you line the entire esophagus preoperatively with a dye. So you line the entire esophagus with a dye, and with the help of video fluoroscopy. So you use a video fluoroscopy to see what is happening at the level of the cricopharyngeal sphincter when the patient is phonating. So first, what do? You will line the esophagus with dye. Once you line the esophagus with the dye, then you will do a VFS. And then you will ask the patient to phonate. While the patient is phonating, you will see how is this cricopharyngeal sphincter functioning, whether it is able to contract well, is it able to relax well, when the sound, or when a patient wants to phonate, is it having sufficient relaxation or is it going into spasm? What is happening, you can assess. Also, when the patient is phonating, you can see the type of voice the patient is producing. Normally, they should be able to produce a good voice, able to speak at least a few sentences. If there is a weak or a feeble voice, it means that this cricopharyngeal sphincter is hypotonic. So, if it is hypotonic, the patient may need additional pressure on the trachea, on the opening of the permanent tracheostome, to cause this, to increase the tonicity of the cricopharyngeal segment. If it is squeaky voice, then it means that that segment is hypertonic, meaning this cricopharyngeal segment is going into spasm to produce that squeaky voice. So what do? You either do a cricopharyngeal myotomy at the time of primary surgery when you're doing a total laryngectomy, or you will do a pharyngeal plexus neurectomy so that it relaxes adequately when the patient wants to phonate. So you can do a pharyngeal plexus neurectomy. Okay, so you line the entire esophagus with dye, and then you put the nasogastric tube, insufflate with air. You keep the end of the nasogastric tube at the site where you intend to do a tracheoesophageal puncture, and then you ask the patient to phonate. Depending upon the movements that you see on video fluoroscopy and also on the voice, you will get an idea whether this pharyngoesophageal segment is dynamic or not. If it is dynamic, then you can go for a secondary TEP. Now, other factors that you need to evaluate for success of a TEP are: You have to assess whether the tracheostoma is adequately good enough or not. You have to see the neck contour if there is any stiffness of the, or there is a sternocleidomastoid which has gone into tension because of the surgery. If there is a good occlusability of the stoma with the 1 or 2 fingers of the patient, if the patient has a good respiratory reserve, and how much is the chance of recurrence. Normally, this posterior superior part of the stoma should be wider than the antero-inferior part. So the posterior superior part of the stoma should be wide compared to the antero-inferior part. And this is how it should be. It should be oval shaped. And if the patient wants, gently by just 1 finger occlusion, he should be able to occlude the stoma. This is how the stoma has to be. And you can see the TEP in situ. Now, what are the complications? Also, whenever you're doing this, you should see that the neck contour is relaxed and there is no tension. The sternal heads of the sternocleidomastoid, if needed, you may do a tenotomy. Tenotomy is to release the tension of the sternal heads so that they do not exert lateral pressure on the stoma and cause narrowing. So you can do a tenotomy if you see that the contour of the neck is in tension, or if there is an excessive stretch of the sternocleidomastoid. Now, what are the complications? So with this, I think you know what is the primary TP, what is secondary TP, what is the surgical procedure, how to assess a pharyngoesophageal segment, and what are the complications. We will go now. So you can have leakage through the prosthesis if the prosthesis is defective. Normally, it is a univalve functioning prosthesis. So if the valve is not functioning well, then you can have this problem where you have leakage through the prosthesis, and that may cause aspiration. Leakage around the prosthesis. If the tracheoesophageal puncture you made becomes large, then through that around the prosthesis, the puncture site, from there can be leakages. There can be granulation tissue that can form. So if you have lacerated excessive pharyngeal mucosa, there may be granulation tissue that can form. It can be just treated with simple cautery or steroid. The fistula may migrate upwards because of the pull if you do not have a good relaxation of the muscles of the neck. There may be an excessive mucus production transiently because of loss of humidification function of the because you don't have humidification. Normally air goes through the nose, so nose will humidify the air, but now it is going through the tracheostoma, so there is loss of humidification, lot of dry air goes, so as a result the response is to produce increased mucus. Sometimes there may be difficulty in reinserting the prosthesis. So if there is a prosthesis that needs to be removed, cleaned, and to be put back, that is trained by the patient. Some kind of prosthesis requires the patient to go to the doctor to change the prosthesis. Those are called as indwelling prosthesis. Non-indwelling prosthesis means the patient can remove, clean the prosthesis and again put it back, whereas indwelling prosthesis requires the patient to go to a doctor and he will do the reinsertion of the prosthesis. So there may be difficulty in reinsertion, or there may be spontaneous expulsion. So these are the various complications that you could expect from a TEP. Now, a quick word on what is a neopharynx. A neopharynx is after you have done a total laryngectomy, what is the amount of pharyngeal mucosa that is present. So the amount of pharyngeal mucosa that is present or that is available is your neopharynx, that is available and reconstructed. That is your neopharynx. So sometimes you may have to do a partial pharyngectomy with a total laryngectomy, or you may just do a total laryngectomy without any pharyngeal mucosa excision. So the part of the pharynx that is left behind is sutured. That pharynx we call it as a neopharynx. And the amount of neopharynx that is available, that will determine the swallowing ability of the patient, aspiration, and all the other complications. So if there is a large amount of pharyngeal mucosa that is available, then it is good. But if you have a small remnant pharynx, then the swallowing mechanism may be hampered. Now, what is neoglottis? Now, some patients in some of the earlier literature, you don't need to insert a tracheoesophageal prosthesis. Instead of using a tracheoesophageal prosthesis, you can use sternal heads of the sternothyroid muscles or you can use the mucosa of the pharyngeal wall or the inferior constrictor thyropharyngeus or cricopharyngeus. So any muscle, so basically any muscle, it could be sternohyoid or it could be sternothyroid also, or it can be inferior constrictor. These two are commonly used muscle, and the muscles are now covering. Now we have a permanent tracheostoma, right? So this muscle will cover the trachea in a way that it will produce a vocal cord like effect. So you can see a V-shaped area. So the air will go through the trachea and from this neoglottis into the neopharynx and from there into your oral cavity and produce voice. So this neoglottis is a procedure where you reshape the muscles, your sternohyoid or your sternothyroid or your inferior constrictor or the mucosa of the hypopharynx over the trachea, over the remnant trachea or the upper trachea, as a result of which the air will pass through the neoglottis and from there into the pharynx and come out. So neopharynx is the amount of pharynx that is available after it has been resected, and neoglottis is reconstructing the reconstructing over the trachea, that now it looks like a glottis. That is your neoglottis. So with this, I hope you have some idea about what is TEP. It itself is a very, very big topic, but only for the help of the postgraduates who are appearing for their exams and they need to have certain idea about what is a TEP. I have done this video. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.